Welcome to the Living Well podcast, hosted by City Union Mission. In each episode, we bring you inspiring stories of transformation and insights from those who've overcome life's challenges. Join us on this journey of resilience and discovery. Let's dive in.
Hello, and welcome to the City Union Mission podcast, the Living Well podcast. Today we have Dinae Chichester, and she is the Health Services Coordinator and Supervisor at City Union Mission. And if you recognize her last name, you know that her husband's been on the podcast quite a few, actually maybe 2 or 3 times now.
Yeah.
So he's pretty good at this. So just a shout out to your husband. So tell me, Dinae, a little bit, you're also known as the nurse. Mm-hmm. Okay. How did that come about? Why do they call you that?
Well, because I am the nurse.
Yeah.
And my long title, the Health Services Coordinator and Supervisor, is long. And so ultimately on the men's ministry side, I am the nurse over those buildings and the programs and services there. So I am the nurse.
What made you want to work at City Union Mission?
Whew, that's a story. So ultimately, I didn't want to work at the mission because I was very happy where I was. And I wasn't interested in leaving, wasn't interested in changing my career direction.
Was that at a hospital or something?
It was at a hospital.
Okay.
So I still technically work there part-time. But before the mission, I was full-time with St. Luke's Health System in Kansas City as a forensic nurse. So I respond to assault victims that have been physically assaulted, sexually assaulted, human trafficked, have elder or child abuse, heavy stuff, a lot of it. I did that full time. So 3 shifts a week, 12-hour shifts. I did that for 2 years at St. Luke's, and I love it. I still love it. But I didn't have any desire to leave full time there. But it was night shift.
Yeah.
And I was struggling. We have a family. We have, a lot of life going on.
Yeah.
And my husband, actually, the first time my position came open at the mission, he's like, hey, maybe you should think about it. I think you'd really like it. I think this would be a good place for you. I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it at all. But then second time.
So why were you resistant to that?
Because I loved my job. I really did. And the thing is, I'm drawn to vulnerable populations, and I'm really drawn to working with those who can't defend themselves or advocate for themselves appropriately.
Yeah.
And I loved that part of my job at St. Luke's, and I still do. That's part of why I'm still there part-time. And I say part-time, literally 1 shift every 2 weeks, like not a lot. And so I was like, no, not going to happen. A few months later, the position came open again. My husband again, gently, but he brought it up again, and he said, would you consider it again? Would you consider it this time? I just really think that it would be good, and it would get you off night shift, so that's a bonus, just another thing. I was less hesitant this time because of the day shift, night shift difference, but more so I found out more about the position. Found out more, okay, this isn't just like a clinic, school nurse kind of thing, which is what I was picturing, just sitting in a walk-in clinic and just seeing, minor things. This is a really heavy education. It's a lot of trauma-informed care. And when I started realizing the population overlapped with that I see at St. Luke's.
I was going to say, it's not completely different, is it?
It's actually very similar.
Yeah.
A lot of my research and my experience now, both at the mission and at St. Luke, shows that there's a huge overlap with homelessness and violence. So if you are homeless, you're actually at greater risk of having an assault or some kind of violence done against you. And on the flip side, if you have had violence in your life in any way, you're more likely to be homeless. One of the top causes of homelessness is domestic violence. It is one of the top, and depending on where you go or who you talk to, they may consider it the top, especially for women. So the individuals I was working with at St. Luke's are some of the very people that I see every day at the mission and that I work with constantly. And when I saw that connection, I couldn't say no.
So what is it you love about, and I wrote this down, why do you love working with people that have gone through trauma and that is heavy, trafficking and abuse and man.
Honestly, it's a calling. I really believe it's a calling. The Lord called both my husband and myself to foster care ministry first in our own family. We've adopted, we've fostered, we've gone through this process. And I
That's
think
tough too, isn't it?
it is tough.
People don't realize how hard that is.
Ooh, I'm telling you. And those kiddos we adopted as itty bitties are now teenagers and growing older, and it doesn't end. It's not like you adopt them.
I don't see any gray hair there. So.
Oh, it's hidden. It's hidden. I'll tell you. But yeah, no, it's been a long process. We've had kiddos in our life for 10 years now from foster care. All of the kiddos in our home have either been adopted or are biologically ours. So we've seen a lot of trauma. We've seen a lot of that in our personal life. And I think that really opened the door to wanting to do more in my career and in my work life as well. So it just overlaps. All of my life overlaps, and that lit the fire, and I can't say no.
Yeah. Tell me about some of the services that you're able to provide, people that come into City Union Mission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have, of course, our walk-in clinic, and I'm not an advanced healthcare provider, so I can't prescribe or diagnose, but I definitely can see people if they come in and they have injuries or they have headaches or whatever it is, we can give them products like over-the-counter meds that they could buy themselves, but they don't have the money to buy themselves, right? So if they come in and they ask, hey, can I get some ibuprofen? Well, I've got that on hand. We can do that. On the flip side, I can also use my nurse assessment skills and figure out, is this safe for you? I'm not sure. We can talk about that, and I can refer on. So that's the second piece, is I can connect with assistance outside of the mission as necessary. We have a lot of community partners.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask next.
Yeah,
so you
we
have
do.
people you can refer, like
Absolutely.
doctors and things like that.
Yeah, we actually work really closely with Swope Health.
Okay.
And we have a connection with them, so we can send people their way. I can connect the providers directly with our guests and participants. I can give them a heads up. Hey, I'm sending someone your way. They can give me a heads up. Hey, we're sending them to the hospital. It's actually really helpful, that partnership. They also send services out to the mission once a month, both on the men's center side and the women's. So they send a bus that has mobile medical units, which is quite literally a doctor's office on a bus.
Wow.
So yeah, so they're able to come and get seen, write prescriptions, do whatever might be needed. The Swope Services also provides transportation to Swope. That's just one of the community partners, but that's one that we work with really closely.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is. It's a huge service. And one of the things that I do in conjunction with Swope, then another service, is healthcare management during their program participation. So we do the walk-in hours, we do community resources and connections, and then when they sign up for the program, then I walk step by step with them as they establish care with the primary provider, and then make sure they're getting their meds correctly, they're taking them, and then help them if there's anything they need. Health literacy, which is the understanding of health and how to take care of themselves, is pretty low in a lot of the guys we work with.
Yeah.
So I help, I teach, I inform, like, hey, this is something we can look at. We can easily make this change. A lot of our guys decide to quit smoking. I assist them with that too. Hey, let's get you some nicotine gum. Let's work with your provider on this. So those are all ways we can work together.
Yeah. What does a typical day look like for you?
Whew. What
Is it
day
never
of the
the same?
week? Yeah, that's
Is it never the same?
It's every day of the week is a little different. Right now, most of my job is shared between the men's shelter, which is our emergency shelter, and our.
Is that where your office is?
That's where my main office
Okay.
is. But we've
You have
established
multiple offices, huh?
Well, we've established a secondary office in the CLC because I was over there so much, and the guys came over and saw me over there, so it made sense. Our CLC is our Christian Life Center. That's for our recovery program for the men.
Yeah.
And I'm over there 3 times a week in the mornings, so help them have access to their medications, any supplements or vitamins, and then I'm just there to answer questions. Wednesday morning, I can meet with them over there as well. If they have questions, they need to check in with me. Thursday mornings, we have a devotional, and I try to make it over there as much as I can, and then I'm available if they need me right after too. So in the afternoons, 3 times a week, I have my walk-in hours at the men's center, and in between, I am answering questions, I am doing appointments, I am managing health services because that is my job as the supervisor.
Yeah.
So I'm also processing referrals from our hospital agencies in the area. So that's another thing we do is
Referrals to City Union Mission.
Yep. So we set up a few beds at the Mission and the Men's Center specifically that we connect with hospitals around the area. And then we actually take hospital partners from Kansas and Missouri and from all over. So we have some that send from St. Louis area to us as well.
Is that right? Wow.
Yep. So I connect with them, medically screen them, and make sure they're appropriate for an independent shelter where we don't have standard medical care. And then make sure that we have a bed for them. So that all kind of happens in the middle of everything.
That's got to be a great service. Service is probably not the right word, but for a hospital to be able to refer people to come to City Union Mission, that's probably great for them too.
Yeah.
They have to appreciate that.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's still education that's happening because most shelters don't have a process like that. And so they would just send someone and essentially drop them off. And so one of the education pieces we're working on is how to help our hospitals know, hey, there's an option here where we can do a warm handoff. You can tell me about them. We can make sure they have their medications they need. We can make sure that we're aware of them and that we have a bed. So when they show up, we don't have to turn them away. It's really improved the health of our guys in the Mission and then also their transition. It's hard to leave a hospital and come to a shelter. That's rough.
Yeah.
Especially if they were hospitalized for something that impacted their social skills or their mental state, their trauma, all of those things.
Yeah. So having a little heads up that they're coming is a good thing. So you guys can be prepared for that and know the conversations. So let's switch gears a little bit. Faith. How do you use faith in your everyday job? I mean, asking God to help discern what's happening here, the right words to say, can you talk about that for your job?
Absolutely. So that's actually one of my favorite parts of my job.
Yeah.
Is that I get to do that, is that I get to utilize my own personal faith for one, but then also connect with our guests and participants. We are unapologetically Christian at City Union Mission. And I tell people that when I meet with hospital partners, I tell them, we are a Christian organization and your guys are going to hear the gospel if they come here. That's just what's going to happen. And they do. They hear it from all of our staff. The thing that faith really impacts with medical care and physical care is that we are whole people that are not separate from physical, mental, and spiritual health. Those things all go together, and you can't separate them without separating a person. It's just part of you. And because of that, it means that your spiritual health and your mental health directly impact your physical health. And if you have trauma that's occurred, which homelessness is trauma. It just is.
Yeah.
And by itself. And there are traumas that lead to homelessness. So you have this stacked effect of traumas that are on top of each other. And that builds up in the body. There's a book written by a huge neuroscientist called The Body Keeps the Score. Vessel Vanderkolk, I can't say his name very well, but that's who it's by. Talking about how trauma is actually stored in your body, and your body is physically affected by trauma, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, it doesn't matter. It's held in your body. So when we have guys that are homeless that come into the Mission, they have physical trauma to their body because of all the other things they've endured and experienced. And so because of that, faith is at its core needing to be addressed when we are also addressing physical health. If they have spiritual needs to meet, we can't fix them. The Lord does that. And if there's a spiritual thing that's off, that's got to be resolved. And we can meet the physical needs, we can meet the emotional needs. But if that spiritual one isn't tied in there, they're not going to have resolution and they're not going to see true health and healing.
Yeah. Are you one of the first people to see people when they come into the Mission?
Not always. It depends.
Stephen probably is, right?
He gets to be sometimes.
Yeah,
for sure. If there's a medical emergency at work, they're going to call me. If there is someone that they are not sure is going to be successful physically at the Mission, because we have to be independent to work in the Mission. Each person has to be able to take their medications themselves, take care of their physical needs, get up and downstairs in an emergency, things like that. I might be one of the first people. And they would call and make sure that I can see them and assess, is this person capable? Sometimes they're not. And we do our best to get them appropriate care that is better for them. Sometimes they just need a little assistance in some way. So we have resources in the mission we can use for that, and then we have resources we can connect without. But our guest coordinators are frontline. They're the first people you see when you walk in the door, and they know how to contact me quickly if they need me. So.
Yeah. How people are coming in the mission probably, I don't know where they are faith-wise, what the percentages are or anything, but how are people typically receiving the message that, God is here, Christ is here?
So it's a mixed response, honestly.
Yeah.
When I get somebody into health services, there's some need that they have, and it's a physical need. That's
Right.
just the reality. If they come to health services, they need something from me. It could be a note that says they can have an extra pillow. It could be a note that says they can have a fan at night. It could be all sorts of things. There's so many things like that. It could be that they need medication. It could be that they need to know where to get their meds filled. I mean, the list is endless. When they come in, we've set up an environment that is trauma-informed. So it's calm. We have grounding opportunities, which basically just allows the person to connect with where they're at so they can physically touch things. We have coffee. We have mints. I have a diffuser going. Like, we have things like that. And once they step into health services, typically you can see them breathe. They come in one at a time, so it's not like they're all just sitting there waiting, listening to each other. They wait in the hall until it's time to come in. We usually use a consultation room first that kind of helps ground them a little bit more. It's just chairs instead of a clinic-looking room. In those moments, you can see them relax, and then in those moments as well, you can hear their receptivity to what's going on around them a little more, because they can tell you more and talk to you more. And usually their reception is, I used to have faith, or I used to go to church, or, I haven't done it in a long time. I really need to again. You kind of hear those, off the cuff statements, because now they're relaxed and able to tell you what's going on, but it's overall positive.
Well, you mentioned trauma-informed. What does that mean?
Oh, goodness. So that's
Is that a deep question?
That's a big thing, but I'll try to keep it succinct here. So trauma-informed essentially means that everything that we do is going to be utilizing the lens of knowing everyone's experienced trauma. So everything that we do when we're working with our guests and our participants and our staff is understanding that everyone has experienced trauma. And because homelessness by itself is trauma, every interaction with a guest or a participant is trauma-informed. In health services specifically, that means we're listening. That means we're understanding their behaviors are maybe triggered, not necessarily because they're choosing to do that. We're identifying the cause of what's going on, not just the symptom. So, and we're doing things like creating a calm environment that has less triggers. We're being a safe place for them. We're listening. We're doing all of those things. And a lot of that comes from my background as a forensic nurse and just overlaps and comes right in and fits in nicely at the homeless shelter.
I mean, you were made for this.
This
feels like.
I love my job.
Yeah.
I do feel like the Lord prepared me to be here at this time in this place, and that He's really working through health services to create a better environment at the mission.
So talk about the future goals of health services for City Union Mission. I mean, are you a dreamer? Do you think like, wow, I would love it to see us go here?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, man, for sure. One of my biggest dreams is actually to see more of a direct connection for our domestic violence and human trafficking victims that come to the mission. The reality is...
Huge in Kansas City, too, isn't it?
Huge in Kansas City.
People don't realize that probably, do they?
No, unfortunately. We are a hub for human trafficking, especially because we have many interstates and because we're in the middle of the nation. We are a hub. And as a forensic nurse, I'm well aware of this. As a forensic nurse, I also realized that shelter is non-existent for emergent needs for human trafficked individuals. It's just the reality.
Yeah.
And then the programs that are set up for trafficked individuals are few and far between, but you have to be accepted into them. So typically they're not an emergent placement. They're after you've calmed down, you've stabilized for a couple days or a week, then we can maybe accept you.
Impossible.
Absolutely impossible. Absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
You just don't do that. You have to have that emergent use right there. Same is true for domestic violence. There's lists for domestic
Yeah.
violence shelters in Kansas City. We've had multiple shelters close in the last few years. Funding is hard. We have shelter. We have shelter. And we have domestic violence and human trafficked individuals in our shelters right now because those are contributing causes to homelessness. So it's not like we're like, oh, we don't have any of those people, we'd have to set all this stuff up. No, we have it right now. So my goal is to create a pathway for those individuals that addresses their specific needs. So that is one really big thing. Been working hard on kind of envisioning what that looks like.
Yeah. What does that look like?
Well,
more space? Is it a different facility? Is it more staff? What would make that?
lots of different options potentially. As it is right now, having a separate pathway for those who are already coming to our mission and just understanding, okay, they need to be able to stay in the shelter all the time. They don't need to be asked to leave. They can have maybe a little bit more space set aside. Our L Minor Care ministry at the men's center side is ideal because we can actually send some of our higher risk and more vulnerable individuals to Amanda, to L Minor Care, and they can have a smaller space where they understand like they're not having the full shelter environment of the men's shelter. That can help, and we want that on the women's side. So
Can you recognize somebody that comes in that's been trafficked pretty easily?
there are red flags. There are definite red
What
flags.
are those?
There's a lot of them, and it depends on the person. Some of those red flags include they don't know where they've been. They don't know who they've been with. They won't give names. They've had drugs or alcohol that they're either dependent on or they've just been given it. Multiple recent pregnancies. Multiple reports of being to the hospital over and over again from injuries or STDs, something like that. Medically, that's on that side. They might have multiple IDs or no IDs. They might have multiple cell phones or no cell phone. They might have somebody that's expecting them to check in. They might describe their significant other, but not be able to either give a name or call them by something that's not their name, you know? A lot of these are also homeless indicators.
Yeah.
They overlap because our homeless are at high risk for being trafficked and vice versa. If you've been trafficked, you're high risk for being homeless, just like any assault. So when we see gut feeling start to go off, where our spidey senses start tingling, something's off here, I don't know, they're skittish, they're not comfortable talking to us about certain things. Those are all red flags.
Does that change your approach in that meeting?
The idea is that if we're trauma informed with every person, then we're already addressing that interaction with a trauma informed lens, understanding there's something that is impacting their responses. However, it absolutely does change the direction for sure. If we're looking at, okay, they may be trafficked, they may need more resources, they should probably for safety stay in the building. They need maybe a longer resource. You know, they
somebody
might
may be coming after them or something, right?
Absolutely. So those are safety concerns. Those are big things we need to address. And homeless shelters can be targeted by traffickers because they're vulnerable people and they're sitting right here.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a big can of worms to open, to start looking at that and realizing, wow, like this is not just something that could be happening. This is something that is right now.
But what if City Union Mission became a beacon of hope for people that are in that situation? That would, I love the vision of that.
That's my hope.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Very interesting. All right. So the last question I want to ask you, what are some of the most frequently asked questions that you get when people come into the mission?
I have a list.
Okay. we need a drum roll or something,
Yes. So the number one thing I get from a lot of people is, do we have medical beds? Because I'm a nurse and I'm at the mission and we approve people medically. We screen them medically.
You mean like something you'd have in a hospital, that type of bed?
That's what people ask, yeah. Or skilled nursing. Are we like skilled nursing because we have nurses on staff? The short answer is no. We just don't have medical beds. What we do have is a bed that can be reserved for those that are coming out of a medical situation, but who are able to independently care for themselves. So if they don't need somebody to give them meds, if they don't need somebody to take care of their wounds or transport them, if they can independently care for themselves, that sort of thing, they're appropriate here. But no, we don't have actual medical hospital beds.
Okay.
So that's a big one.
All right.
That actually leads into the next one a little bit, because that coincides with the question of if we allow wheelchairs. Not all shelters do, so that's a valid question. We do allow wheelchairs. The key, though, is that we're in an old building that is 3 stories high, and in an emergency, that person has to be able to go down the stairs. So if they can't, and even in an emergency by themselves, then it's just not safe for them to be staying with us.
So they'd have to be able to get out of the wheelchair and go down the stairs.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm okay if they're able to literally scoot themselves down the stairs themselves, as long as they can do it completely independently and safely. But we have individuals where that's not safe.
Do you have them show you how they can do that?
I usually, when I'm doing a medical screening, I'm actually telling the social worker, I need you to screen for this. And we go on word of faith here. We're like, okay, please tell me. Sometimes it's not always true. And then we run into issues, because if we have a fire alarm, we have a tornado warning, which we had this summer, you know, we have to get down the stairs quick, and we don't have staff that can literally help people down the stairs. We just don't. And so that, if they're beyond our care there, they may have to leave or go somewhere else that has the appropriate ability. So we do have an elevator most of the time, but it doesn't always work.
I've been on that elevator.
Yeah, me too. So we do have it, but we can't rely on it 100%.
Okay.
So that's a big question.
Okay.
Do we provide wound care or medication administration? And no, we don't. I can assist, though. Like, for example, if someone has wounds that they can definitely do themselves, but maybe they didn't receive a lot of education on what to do or something. And that does happen. It does. Unfortunately, hospitals are busy.
Yeah.
If it was an ER discharge, for instance, they may have just discharged quickly and gave him supplies, but that's it. Not really taught him. So I can do that education. I can provide resources with what we have supply-wise, stuff like that. I won't administer medications. That's really important. They need to be able to administer their own. That means if they can't give themselves insulin shots or physically open their own pill bottles, things like that.
Insulin's probably a big deal too, isn't it?
Ooh, it's a big deal. And honestly, that can also lead beyond boundaries if they just can't manage their own insulin. Like, that's not safe. It's not. And we're not a medically managed facility. We're not a medical facility. We're just not. I'm there for a lot of reasons, but not that reason.
Yeah.
So, can we use help is another one I get. I actually get that question a lot.
Well, the answer is no, right?
Oh, definitely. Always. No, nursing wise, I get nurses like, do you ever want nurses? Or, do you ever just need a volunteer? And answer is absolutely. We have volunteer coordinators that are able to help with that. As a nurse, if someone's ever interested in helping, they can come help me. And I do have hours that we open up. I have a volunteer nurse that comes weekly right now. She's great and helps me see more people when they come into the walk-in clinics. So that's really great. Also, what sorts of items do we need? That's another question I get all the time. And I'm always needing more supplements like vitamin C, things like that. We do go through a lot of reading glasses.
Really?
Yes. And canes. We go through a lot of those. Good rolling walkers. That's things we go through. These are literally questions I have people, well, what do you need? What kind of things do you need? And there's always a list going. So I've always got different things, different times of the year, but multivitamins, go through them like crazy.
Okay.
And then what if someone isn't safe to stay at the mission? That's the last question I get all the time. We do have a boundaries of care that we follow. And if they're not safe because they're either potentially going to harm themselves or they're just not safe to be around other people, we consider them outside of our boundaries of care. And we do everything in our power to find them placement somewhere else that's more appropriate for them. Sometimes that doesn't work, and sometimes they have to just leave. And we don't have an option outside of that sometimes because they're putting themselves and our staff and our guests at risk if they stay. That's just the reality.
Can't risk that.
Cannot risk that. And we try to get them to the hospital if they're medically beyond our care. Sometimes that doesn't happen either. Sometimes they just leave or they refuse to go to the hospital. That does happen. We've had some individuals that keep coming back, and we keep having to turn them away and remind them, you are not safe here. Like you need way more care. And those are individuals that may fall a lot, or, they can't hold on to their medications, and it's dangerous for them not to take the medications. It does happen.
It's got to be tough.
It is really tough.
Sending somebody away.
Those are the hard days.
Yeah.
Those are the days where it's like, man, I want to help. We just cannot help. So.
So if somebody seeing the podcast wants, maybe it's a nurse, maybe it's a doctor, that wants to volunteer to help City Union Mission, how would they go about doing that?
So we actually have our info emails where I would suggest reaching out first. It's literally info@cityunionmission.org.
Okay.
And then they can further direct. There's some of our administrative assistants that monitor that email. They can further direct to the appropriate place. Usually medical volunteers get referred to me from there, and they can also reach out to me directly, but that's not always the easiest way just because there's other things I'm doing too. But they can reach out to that info email, and then they would direct them to either our volunteer coordinator or to me directly, and then we would figure out, okay, where can we use your help directly? Everybody's got different skills or desires.
Would you accept doctors coming in and helping?
Probably, actually. We haven't had anyone specifically asking from that profession, but I can tell you we would have the ability to adjust and to include them if they wanted to help.
That would be amazing, I
That
think.
would be amazing, for sure. We would definitely have places to plug them in, and there are things that I can't do as a registered nurse only that I would need a provider to do.
Yeah.
So there are things that we could expand to, but we just need somebody interested.
There are some faith-based doctors' offices around. It would seem to me that would be a perfect place
absolutely.
to get a volunteer to come in
Absolutely.
and stuff. So, well, thank you so much, Dinae. It was really, I think we could keep going probably. So if you're watching the podcast and you are a nurse or a doctor and you want to actually get involved, reach out to City Union Mission, info@cityunionmission.org. I probably is the email. Send this to somebody that might be interested in that. The work being done on the front lines of homelessness is amazing, and lives are being changed. That's why I love City Union Mission so much. Is that it's using the same methods that Christ used to meet physical needs and spiritual needs, and that's how true change comes. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast, share it, comment, share it with people that have an interest in helping, and stay tuned because there's more great podcasts coming, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to The Living Well. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media for even more inspiration. Want to join our mission? Visit cityunionmission.org. Stay inspired, and we'll catch you next time.